Howdy, I'm Morgan, and we're in the Jackrabbit Hall. On today's show, we're going to be talking about a Yodel yeast.
And bacteria.
We're going to really dive into this yeast situation. We're going to start with pickling, which is going to lead us into our season finale. I cannot hardly wait. Alright, so back to the Yodel of yeast.
And bacteria.
Fermentation processes we're going to be dealing with. Pickling, fermenting of vegetables. What we're going to be talking about is how to care for your yeast, your yodels of yeast.
And bacteria.
The process of pickling is fermenting the vegetable in a vacuum-sealed environment. The most important thing about yeast is that you need to feed it something. Most yeast, like sugar, it needs an array of vitamins. The more vitamins you give your yeast, the better it's gonna work. Fresh vegetables, organic, natural, freshly picked, and perfectly ripe. I'm gonna do several picklings at once. We're gonna make pickles, we're gonna make pickled carrots, we're gonna make sauerkraut, and the tomatoes, and it's all the same process. Making the brine solution. 1 tablespoon of salt to 1 cup of water. If you want it to be less salty, just use about a teaspoon of salt to each cup of water. Remember to sanitize your jars in boiling water first. You want to cut your cucumbers just before you're about to pickle them. I like an array of sizes. Do some chips, do some sticks, some spears. First step in making a good set of pickles is it's all about the spices we put into the bottom of this jar. So let's start with loading one of our little wee jars with some spices. The first ingredient I'm going to add to my soon-to-be pickle jar
Peppercorns, right?
is dill. This is some dill I harvested from the garden. It's seeds, weeds, stems, and all. This is about a teaspoon. Maybe a little more. I like a lot of dill. I have some chopped onion. I'm gonna add.
You're gonna put in the peppercorns, right?
A couple wee garlics or 1 big garlic.
Did you?
And half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. The next important step in your brine pickling solution is to add some vinegar. I would do about a 1/4 cup of vinegar to every cup of water. And just taste it and see how it tastes to you. If you like it, then it's good. If it's too much, back off. If it's too little, add a little more. As you're tasting your brine solution, you want to really think now, does this taste like what I want my pickles to taste like? Now that tastes like pickles. Already. I think that's good. Vinegar, salt, water. I've got my jar of spices. I like my jars to look real pretty, so I've chopped up some red sweet peppers, red and yellow. I'm going to throw those in the bottom, and they look nice. Now that we're over here in the pickle department, take all these little cucumbers and we're just going to shove them in that jar as tight as they will go. I've washed my hands thoroughly, and in the case of fermenting and pickling, you just want to be really clean. Wash your hands, wash your equipment, wash your surfaces, make sure everything is sterilized. There's my jar. Spices, aesthetics, fresh English cucumbers. You can use any kind of cucumber you want, really. Got my brine solution, just waiting for that to boil.
Why, hello there. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'd like to tell you something about pickles. A pickled cucumber, commonly known as a pickle in the United States and Canada, or generally as gherkins in the United Kingdom, is a cucumber that has been pickled in a brine, vinegar, or other solution and left to ferment for a period of time by either immersing the cucumbers in an acidic solution or through souring by lactofermentation. A gherkin is not only a pickle of a certain size, but also a particular species of cucumber, the West Indian or burr gherkin, which produces a somewhat smaller fruit than the garden cucumber. Typically, small cucumbers are placed in a glass or ceramic vessel or a wooden barrel, together with a variety of species. A kosher dill pickle is not necessarily kosher in the sense that it has been prepared in accordance with Jewish dietary law. Rather, it is a pickle made in the traditional manner of Jewish New York City pickle makers, with generous addition of garlic and dill to a natural salt brine. Dill pickles, not necessarily described as kosher, have been served in New York City since at least 1899. They are not, however, native to New York. They have been prepared in Russia, Ukraine, Germany, and Poland for hundreds of years.
Now I'm gonna make some pickled carrots. Piping hot jar. Dun 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 dun. Carrots. Rinse them good before you pickle them. Shove them in there good. For all the little gappies. Spices. Carrots. And wait for pickling.
Bread and butter pickles are sweeter in flavor than dill pickles, having a high concentration of sugar or other sweetener added to the brine. Like pickled vegetables such as sauerkraut, sour pickled cucumbers are low in calories. They also contain a moderate amount of vitamin K, specifically in the form of K1. One sour pickled cucumber spear offers approximately 15 to 20% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin K. However, most sour pickled cucumbers are also high in sodium.
Next item for pickling doesn't require any spices unless you want it that way. I'm gonna make a little bit of sauerkraut. I got my cabbage chopped up right here. It's fresh. Purple cabbage is really fun. Shove your cabbage in the jar. You try this with any kind of cabbage you want. Radishes, cabbages, possibilities are endless. Pack it in there. This will prep us for our veggie fermenting. Cabbage. Now we're gonna pour the boiling hot vinegar brine solution over our pickles. Comes the carrots, sauerkraut. The next important step in pickling is we're gonna have to kind of fish out some of those little bubbles that got stuck in there. I just have a stick and I'm just kind of sorting out the bubbles. And a lot of times you're gonna have to add more brine after you do this process. It's gonna relieve a lot of air. Put a lid on it. We need to reach above 180 degrees up to 250 degrees. If you have a canner, that's not an issue. If you're at high elevation like I am in Colorado, this is an issue. Water boils here at 180 to 190 degrees, which is like the bare minimum. So we're going to take these through the canning process, put the lid on, and try to get them as hot as we can so that we can get these cans to vacuum seal and make sure we're all in the safe zone. We'll just pull them out and set them on the counter to cool for 15 minutes, label them, and put them on the shelf. We're done. The garlic and the peppers.
Brined pickles are prepared using the traditional process of natural fermentation in a brine, which makes them grow sour. The fermentation process is entirely dependent on the natural occurring lactobacillus bacteria that normally cover the skin of a growing cucumber. Since they are produced without vinegar, a film or bacteria forms on the top. But this does not indicate they have spoiled, and the film is simply removed. Brined pickles can also be known as a fermented fruit or vegetable, such as kimchi, sauerkraut, and any other fruits or vegetables left to soak in a brine to ferment.
Next thing we want to talk to you about is how to ferment veggies, which is very similar to pickling. You're going to bring in wild yeast from the air floating around the kitchen and in the house, so it's a similar process. You just won't believe how similar this is.
Yeasts are eukaryotic microorganisms classified in the kingdom fungi, with 1,500 species currently described. Most yeasts reproduce asexually by mitosis, and many do so by an asymmetric division process called budding. By fermentation, the yeast species Saccharomyces cerevisiae converts carbohydrates to carbon dioxide and alcohol. For thousands of years, the carbon dioxide has been used in baking and the alcohol in alcoholic beverages. It is also a centrally important model organism in modern cell biology research and is one of the most thoroughly researched eukaryotic microorganisms. Researchers have used it to gather information about the biology of eukaryotic cell and ultimately human biology. Other species of yeast, such as Candida albicans, are opportunistic pathogens and can cause infections in humans. Yeasts have recently been used to generate electricity in microbial fuel cells and produce ethanol for the biofuel industry.
Yeast 101. Yeast needs food. It needs vitamins. Fermented veggies. Cabbage. You just want to wad this cabbage right in this jar.
We still have a lot of yeastly information to cover here, so if you're interested, here's a quick how-to video on fermenting your own veggies. But for now, back to the yeast! Well, hello there, and it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Several yeasts, in particular S. cerevisiae, have been widely used in genetics and cell biology, largely because S. cerevisiae is a simple eukaryotic cell, serving as a model for all eukaryotes, including humans, for the study of fundamental cellular processes such as the cell cycle, DNA replication, recombination, cell division, and metabolism. Many proteins important in human biology were first discovered by studying their homologues in yeast. Some probiotic supplements use the yeast S. boulardii to maintain and restore the natural flora in the gastrointestinal tract. S. boulardii has been shown to reduce the symptoms of acute diarrhea. Yeast is often used by aquarium hobbyists to generate carbon dioxide, CO2, to nourish plants in planted aquaria.
Okay, now here's the difference between fermented vegetables and pickles. Is instead of taking this through the canning process, we want to leave it open to open air because that's where the wild yeast is. It's in our air right now. But we don't want bugs to get in, so we're going to put a coffee filter over this jar. We gave our yeast food and water.
Lactic acid fermentation, such as in fermented vegetables, is a biological process by which glucose, fructose, and sucrose are converted into cellular energy and the metabolite lactate. It is an anaerobic fermentation reaction that occurs in some bacteria and animal cells, such as muscle cells. Lactic acid fermentation is used in many areas of the world to produce foods that cannot be produced through other methods. The most commercially important genus of lactic acid fermenting bacteria is Lactobacillus, though other bacteria and even yeast are sometimes used. Two of the most common applications of lactic acid fermentation are in the production of yogurt and sauerkraut. Kimchi also uses lactic acid fermentation. The main type of bacteria used in the production of sauerkraut is of the genus Leuconostoc. As in yogurt, when the acidity rises due to lactic acid fermenting organisms, many other pathogenic microorganisms are killed. The bacteria produce lactic acid as well as simple alcohols and other hydrocarbons. These may then combine to form esters, contributing to the unique flavor of sauerkraut. There are many bacteria and yeasts that have and carry on a symbiotic relationship. The main method of producing yogurt is through the lactic acid fermentation of milk with harmless bacteria. The primary bacteria used are typically Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus, and U.S. law requires all yogurts to contain these two cultures, though others may be added as probiotic cultures. These bacteria produce lactic acid in the milk culture, decreasing its pH and causing it to congeal. The bacteria also produces compounds that give yogurt its distinctive flavor. An additional effect of the lowered pH is the incompatibility of the acidic environment with many other types of harmful bacteria. In other words, the good bacteria keep out the bad. Fermented vegetables, in comparison to pickles, contain just a little bit more of the good stuff. They have good yeast that the body needs, as well as an array of probiotics.
And bacteria.
Well, it was nice talking to y'all.
And it was certainly wonderful to give you this here talk on yeast and bacteria and the probiotics and all the wonderful things that you can get from pickling.
Alright everyone, that was great. Well, that's all for today. This has been a Yodel of yeast and bacteria. We're in the Jackrabbit Hollow, and we'll see you next time. Take care.